Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, Sean Callan. Julie Chetney is absent. Tom Chiappa.
Here.
David Crisafulli.
Here.
Jim McKenzie's here. Kristen Norfleet.
Here.
Sean Onmock.
Here.
And our student representative is not here today. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have one person signed up for the floor to the public, Jennifer Cahill.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Cahill, and I'm here tonight representing the OCTA, and we just wanted to but we wanted to thank Stuff-A-Bus. Stuff-A-Bus is an annual countywide school supply drive organized by the United Way that mobilizes our great Oswego County community to support families across all 9 school districts that would find it challenging to purchase school supplies that their children need. Patrick DeWine and the United Way staff organized the Stuff-A-Bus campaign that has continually evolved to meet the challenging needs of the Oswego County community. I'm a math teacher, so bear with me, I have some numbers. 52,093 school supply items were gathered, reaching 1,743 countywide students, with 280 being right here in our own Oswego City School District. These 52,000 plus items collected are then sorted before they are distributed by the many volunteers. The volunteers. We would like to thank our Oswego National Honor Society students that volunteered to help collect, count, sort, and distribute all these school supplies, as well as several OCTA members, and a very special thank you to Mr. DeWine's co-chair, Lori Kelly, our own OCTA member that has been helping families in our county with this endeavor for over 20 years. In addition to all the volunteers, there are many generous donations made by local businesses, groups, and families that all support the Oswego County students by getting them set up for success for the school year with their school supplies, and the OCTA simply wanted to say thank you, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda are the acknowledgements. We're starting a new school year. The students and everybody are back, so it's time to see what everybody's doing. Tom.
Let's go spanning the globe. We're going to go around the district, and we're going to start at Charles E. Riley. Charles E. Riley Elementary School was excited to procure a new lobby rug, complete with our Buccaneer logo, as well as donated classroom supplies from our Home and School Association. A huge shout out and thank you for these much needed items for our students and to dress up our school. Now we're going to jump over to Fitzhugh Park. At Fitzhugh Park School, they had a great start to the school year. They started off the first week with revisiting the school-wide expectations. We also held our first Leader in Me assembly of the school year on 9/13/24. All of our students were given information about joining our Student Lighthouse team and our new Classroom Buddy program. The Classroom Buddy program partners 2 classrooms together throughout the school year to focus on character education and social emotional learning while building our classroom community. We also reviewed our 7 habits and our PBIS expectations. Now over to Minetto. On Thursday, September 12th, Minetto Elementary celebrated the grand opening of its new inclusive playground. This project was a collaborative undertaking, and we are so thankful to everyone who played a part in it. The motto for the playground is a place where everybody can play. And you can see all the participants and all the people involved on that little poster to the right. Staying in Minetto, Minetto has had a very successful start to the new year. Minetto has some new faces this year, one being our SRO, Brandon Porter. Officer Porter is a recently retired Oswego police officer and is fitting right in with our students and staff. On the athletics front, on Friday, September 13th, before the varsity football home opener at the new turf field, it was officially dedicated Joe Wilbur Field. The Wilbur family was in attendance to unveil the plaque in his honor. To help commemorate the special event, Caitlin Duffy, a member of the Wilbur family, sang the national anthem. And the plaque, you can see on the right there, is on the concession stand as you enter to the left coming into the stadium. Now we jump over to Kingsford Park to help start off the year right at KPS. Students and staff had their first school-wide assembly last week. During the assembly, students and staff took their annual rainbow photo. And we end up over at Oswego High School. The OHS Senior Sunrise was Friday, October 13th? Really? I missed a whole month. It was September 13th, starting at 6:30 a.m. on Joe Wilbur Field. Seniors were served breakfast and had a great time catching up with friends. OHS financial information and open house will be this Thursday, September 19th. The financial aid information session starts at 5 p.m. and the open house runs from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Faculty and staff can't wait to meet all of our families. And staying at the Oswego High School, we have someone really close to us. On Friday, September 6th, OHS Social Studies teacher Ben Heckathorn, along with technology teachers Dave Wilcox and Matthew Bach, were in attendance for the Lake Ontario Marine Sanctuary dedication. The teachers brought an underwater ROV that was purchased last year. They were able to demonstrate it to the attendees in the Oswego Harbor in collaboration with the H. Lee White Maritime Museum. And do you want to shake the camera, Mr. Bach, just for acknowledgement? All right, and that's all we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. Next on the agenda, to see if there are any committee discussions, the Audit Committee. Is there anything? David, you want to?
We're going to meet next week with the auditor, and shortly after that, one of the following board members will be presented to the board. So that's coming up very soon.
Great, thank you very much. Community Relations?
We have an October mailer that should be in everybody's mailbox in the next week or two.
Great, thank you. Facilities?
I know we had a slide on it, but a great event with the ribbon cutting up at Minetto and all the work that, Jenny Sullivan over the years, Principal Sullivan, and all the people that donated time and money to be there. It was emotional, where all these kids are going to be able to play. All kids will be able to play for years to come in Minetto. It took a really, really long time. I think people were patient, but we had so many people in our community help with that effort. And Ray said it well last week when the great things that can be accomplished when our Oswego community and our school district work together. And that was a great example of that. So I just I hope, there's going to be a ton of smiles for years to come in Beckman Middle School. So that's great. Also, yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing, there should be a flyer going out next week, just giving some highlights of the vote that we have coming up this fall. So everybody can expect to see that with the referendum for the next capital project proposal.
Great, thank you very much, Sean. Anything from policy?
Yes, we met last Friday, and we are focusing our first couple meetings on developing new board member onboarding. We're focusing on that. We haven't really had to do it, thankfully, because we stayed together as a board, but we are focusing on some outdated policy language that existed and trying to define some of the language, what exactly it means, how involved we should get newly elected board members before they're sworn in. And how much information should be shared with them before they're sworn in, and how much onboarding should happen pre-swearing in as opposed to post-swearing in. And so we're hoping we'll be able to present our recommendation soon.
Great, thank you very much. And Julie heads our visitation committee. I'll just say that because I'm also on it. We're setting up the dates and times now that schools are in order, and we're going to look to try to do a school or building every month for the coming months. Okay, so next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And looks like there's 4 items that I'd like to group together, please. So if I can have a motion for consent agenda items A through D, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion on our consent agenda items A through D? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is curriculum, and the first item is a presentation by Mrs. Caldwell and Dr. Hinman. So,
Okay, good evening. I'm Amanda Caldwell. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and here with me this evening is my colleague, Dr. Raina Hinman, who is the principal at Oswego High School. We are here tonight to give you an overview of our district comprehensive improvement plan in the Oswego High School School Comprehensive Education Plan, our DSEP and our SEP. In a nutshell, our district has been identified for the 24-25 school year as a target district for a small population of students from the high school. And I'll get more into the details of that designation and then what we are required to do as a result of that designation. So, ESSA 23-24 Accountability Determination Overview. How did we get here? So we are currently identified as a target district, and we're going to share with you this evening a little bit about how the state determines that accountability status, because it's actually a very complex algorithm that is used comparing our students in our subgroups to other students across the state. So we've sort of tried to simplify that, and then what we are required to do as a result of that designation. But first, because education, like many other organizations and industries, we love our acronyms, I will share with you a little bit of what some of the acronyms that we're going to refer to tonight. As I said, our DSEP is our District Comprehensive Improvement Plan, and the SEP is the School Comprehensive Education Plan. Schools fall into two classifications. They are either LSI, Local Support and Improvement, CSI, Comprehensive Support and Improvement, TSI, Targeted Support and Improvement, and then districts are in one of two categories. The district is either in good standing or it is a target district. Beginning in the 22-23 school year, the Education Department established a new set of indicators to measure school performance. And as I said, schools are identified either as LSI, CSI, or TSI. It's important for folks to know that all of the schools in our district are in good standing. They are schools, even though the designation is local support and improvement, what that means is that locally, in-house, internally, we are working on our own school improvement plans, but we're not identified as any sort of designation by the state. Districts are also classified, as I said, as either in good standing or as a target district, and we are identified as in good standing or as a target district based on grade bands. Either the K-8 grade band, which actually I think is the 3-8 grade band, and I have Mr. Sean Morgan here in the bullpen, who is our Director of Data and Accountability, in case I get any of this wrong. But I think it should be, is it a 3-8 grade band really because of the state assessment? Designation is K-8. Okay. Yeah, so because we don't have any state measures in K-1, 2, so it really is a result of the 3-8 assessments, but the designation is K-8. Or we are designated as a result of our Regents examinations at the high school level. In those two bands, we are further evaluated based on the subgroups of race and ethnicity, socially or economically disadvantaged, our English language learners, or our students with disabilities. That is important to know because it's actually our race and ethnicity category at the high school that results in our designation. So based on the 22-23 school year data, the Oswego City School District has been classified as a target district at the high school level for our Hispanic students from the 2019 cohort. So what that means is that our students, our Hispanic students who were freshmen in the 2019 school year and who graduated or should have graduated in the 22-23 school year, their performance resulted in our designation because your designation, logically or not, comes after the students have graduated. The data is 1 year behind. So how was the classification determined? For us, it was our Hispanic students' performance on the Regents exams in ELA, math, and science compared to all other high schools across New York State. It's sort of a ranking of performance based on the subgroup, the number of students in that population, and then as a comparison group across the state. It's important to note that the Oswego High School Hispanic students performed at a level 1 on Regents exams for 2 consecutive years, and that is part of the resulting designation. So as a target district, what are we required to do? We are required to create a district-wide comprehensive improvement plan, and then the school or schools that are part of the grade band where the designation takes place are required to create a school comprehensive education plan. Some of you may remember that going back several years, our middle school had a school comprehensive education plan as a result of their designation. This year, the high school is responsible for creating a school comprehensive education plan. The intention of both plans is to improve the academic experience for all students, but with a mind towards targeting the population of students who are underperforming in terms of our designation. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is included in the district comprehensive improvement plan and the school education plan, and then it will be presented to you for, both plans will be presented to you for approval. So the comprehensive education plan, the district-wide plan, is a set of priorities that really act as the school improvement blueprint for the district. Very fortuitous for us that we just last winter and spring engaged in the strategic planning school improvement process. So the Oswego City School District Blueprint for Excellence strategic plan is the foundation for our district-wide comprehensive improvement plan. The processes are literally identical in terms of bringing a group together and identifying the priorities for the district. So you will see that our district improvement plan is really just a reflection of the strategic plan. The school education plan coming out of the high school really is sort of a subcategory of the comprehensive improvement plan for the district. It entails some of the details of the district-wide comprehensive improvement plan, but not all of them. The district plan is submitted to the State Education Department for approval, while building plans are required to be approved locally. And the reason for that is that the high school is not designated as a school in need of improvement, right? Their plan is just how we're going to do business different locally, but we are designated as a district by the state for improvement, so our plan goes to the state. Funding is provided to districts to support us in our improvement efforts to help the targeted population make gains. So the district comprehensive improvement plan focuses on 3 of the priorities out of the strategic plan. Priority 1 is implementing an evidence-based behavioral framework to help students and teachers really gain a better understanding of the behaviors that students are experiencing in school that may be a distraction to the educational environment. 2, to prioritize improved academic achievement for all students. And then 3, targeting attendance for students. And we know students who are not in school cannot learn. So you will see that is a commonality between both the district improvement plan and the school education plan. So briefly, I'm not going to read this to you, but this is reflective of what we had to submit to the state. We were required for each priority to identify the strategy, the methodology, and the resource that we would use to address each priority. So in terms of implementing our evidence-based behavior framework, the first thing that we need to do is administer a school climate survey. We are in the process of identifying an appropriate tool for doing that. We actually have a presentation tomorrow morning to help us identify one of the tool that we might use. Based on the data from the school climate survey, our MTSS team, which is also a lift that will take place this year, will begin implementation of a behavioral framework to help us make gains in that way. We will require time for staff professional development, both on the survey tool analyzing data, and then around the behavioral framework in terms of what we should be doing differently in our classrooms to help students attend to school in a better way. And then progress monitoring, if the things that we have put in place, if the data we have gathered is making any difference in terms of school behavior. And when we say making gains in terms of school behavior, we are really looking for a reduction in student referrals and student suspensions in school or out of school suspensions so that we can keep kids in school and learning. Priority number 2 is around improving academic outcomes for all students, and in our strategic plan and in our district improvement plan, we have targeted a couple of areas to do that. Focus on literacy integration across all content areas. Really, our philosophy should be and needs to become that all teachers are teachers of literacy, regardless of your content area. Students who can't read cannot read your social studies content, your science content. So hoping to make gains in that area. Improving access to graduation enhancements and pathways. The logic there is twofold. One, graduation enhancements such as the Seal of Biliteracy and the Seal of Civic Readiness really are opportunities for us to find the niche for students who enjoy different opportunities in school. The pathway that we are looking at this year is the Independent Arts Assessment pathway that will allow students to build an art portfolio, whether that's visual or musical art, and receive credit towards graduation for doing so. So not only are we looking to improve the student experience in that way, but again, back to the complex algorithm regarding designation status, the district sort of gets bonus points, so to speak, for offering those graduation enhancements, and the more students that we have who take opportunities of those, the more bonus points we get in terms of our standing as a district. And then lastly, increase access to accelerated courses for a broader audience of students, including students from poverty, students of color, and students with disabilities. Our current practice is relatively narrow in terms of welcoming students into accelerated courses, starting at the middle level with math and with science. And really, when we talk about accelerated learning, it's early learning, it's not honors learning, it's not advanced learning, it's taking a course 1 year earlier. And what that does is open opportunities later in a high school student's experience to engage in different electives, and so we should be providing those opportunities to more students. So that is also a goal for us in terms of improving the academic experience for all students. And then, as I said, improving school attendance for all students is something that the district improvement plan and the school education plan have in common. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because I think Dr. Hinman will probably repeat some of the same strategies and resources that we would use. And so I will turn it over to Dr. Hinman.
So the building comprehensive plan was used, we did the administrative team, we had our steering committee, and we had our team leaders all contributing to this plan. And two things that we felt were a priority to help not only this subgroup, but to help all of our students. The first priority was improving student attendance. And as you heard Mrs. Caldwell just say, that's also a district initiative. We need students here in order to learn, so we're really focusing on that. And priority 2 is committing to increasing the academic support for all students. So with that, under number 1, which is the student attendance, Mrs. Clark, who's one of my assistant principals, has really taken the initiative. She has an attendance committee that is actually reviewing all attendance. She actually pulls it every single day. We are sending out communication. So we're increasing that family and that guardian communication and really stressing the importance of our students being here in the building with us. So with that, we are reaching out via School Tool, Parent Square. We're sending some letters home. We have social workers and teachers making phone calls, emails. We are trying to reach families in as many platforms as we can. There are many people who still receive just U.S. postal mail. So we are trying to reach our families in the method that works for them and really trying to partner with them and really explain how important it is for their students to be here in school and try to remove barriers. If we have students that aren't attending, try to remove those barriers and work with our families. Additionally, the attendance committee does data review. Like I said, Mrs. Clark does that daily. She just left a few minutes ago and was doing that tonight. And they actually meet, I believe it's once or twice, once a week, maybe it's every other week, but they are going through that. And then at our weekly, we have weekly student support meetings. We discuss students that are an attendance concern and how are we reaching families. So there's a lot of communication internally, and we're trying to connect to our families externally as well. The second one is increasing academic support, and that's not just for this subgroup of Hispanic students. It's important to know that being on this list, we are talking about less than 15 students, but when you have a subgroup that is that small of a population, it's a very large percentage point. So when all of the numbers shake down, that's really what happens is that we're talking about less than 15 students. So how do we help support those students, but how do we also put a platform in place or a structure in place that helps all of our students? So that's what we're doing here at the high school. So the first thing we're doing is we're increasing our learning lab support. Through our master schedule, we were able to get a lot more coverage. So we have mostly all 4 content areas. It's not every period, but it's a good chunk of it. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we are not only intentionally programming our students in there that we know need extra help, but also offering that to any student that has a study hall that would like to do a drop-in service as well. So this isn't just targeting the subgroup. This is a platform that we can use for all of the students within the high school. So we were able to do the staffing, and we really had some intentional scheduling, especially with that subgroup, making sure that we made room in their schedule so that they had that opportunity to get the extra support in the area where they're not passing that certain Regents exam. Additionally, something new that we're doing is we're offering after-school academic support. So next week, we will start a Monday through Thursday program. Right now, we're piloting it only a half an hour after school, but if we see success with this, we would like to extend that in subsequent years. We do have staff that is willing to do that. So it's a drop-in service for any of our students, but it's also us welcoming students that we know need that extra support because we've targeted them through some scores. Maybe they're not doing so great in an English class. We are able to provide that after school from 2:35 to 3:05. The reason we've done that is so that they can still catch the late bus. Hopefully, if we get some more drivers, maybe we can extend that past the 3:05 in the future. But for right now, that's what we'd like to do, and we'd like to offer that to all of our students. But we also want to invite those students that we know need that extra help based on the data that's come back. And this is a platform we want to use for all of our students, not just this subgroup, because all of our students do need support. Any questions?
How often do you measure, the priorities and what you're working on? Like how often, is it monthly or quarterly where you see, make any adjustments? Here's what we got, improvement, not improvement to the subgroup or to the whole student body? Like how often do you do that?
So for attendance, we're looking a minimum weekly. Tara's looking daily right now, but minimum weekly. For our academics, we're doing the 5, 10, 15. So every time we have a progress report come out at the 5-week, we're able to check academics there, and then at the 10-week report card.
Then to the state, I'm assuming it's the school year that you'll take this whole school year, and what do we, when you get targeted like this, is it at the end of the school year where you deliver what your plan did?
So with that, my understanding, and this is where Sean might be able to help us, this is based on Regent scores. So when we have our ELA in January and then we have our June scores, that will determine whether we stay on that list when they do that subgroup again. So when they do the correlation of all of the districts in the high schools, that's when we will find out. And the thing is that other districts may be looking to improve too. So even though we are compared to other schools, we are in competition with ourselves. We need to have our students performing as close to on level or above as possible. So we don't know where that will shake down. So it's important we put all of those things in place, because if we don't, and do the best that we can and service with the best practices we can with our teachers and in that instructional delivery and in our academic support, because at the end of the day, we don't know where that will shake down at the end of next year. So it's important for us to put our best effort forth for all of these students and provide those opportunities.
Amanda kind of mentioned it, and I was thinking about it as the presentation continued, but you wait a whole year, not us, but New York State waits an entire year to get results of the Regents exam, and then you make corrective action the following year. Is there any discussion where it might be something in the first quarter of a school year so that you can implement, maybe you won't be targeted or change the status of a district or a school, but at least you could start to work on that instead of waiting for the end of the year for for the Regents exam results, you know?
So I think what's been really beneficial is that Mr. Morgan was able to provide us with the cohort, not just the one that just graduated. I have the current seniors, I actually have the current juniors. So he has given me multiple cohorts, and he's already been able to identify which students are making those standards and are not. So we as a team have been able to not only schedule the current seniors, but we're also able to schedule behind on the underclassmen and really look at 3 to 4 years of, as they're taking the Regents exam. So I believe we have 3 years, I think is what you provided me with. So we're not only looking at the current seniors, because then, of course, end of the year, they're gone. What can you do for those seniors? We have to think about what can we do for the classes behind that as well. So we're trying to stay ahead of that and really put that intensive services in for those students so that we're not trying to remedy something for students that aren't with us anymore.
Thanks
And
for explaining that. We're going upstream, which is important. I mean, once
need to
once
back
you
it up so that
hit
it's-
June,
Yes.
it's over. So yeah, that's good.
And I think it's important to know, even though we're designated at the high school level, district-wide, our principals in our administrative team are engaging in reviewing our data all the time. And so even though we are making progress, it's also on our radar that that our students with disabilities are underperforming. They're not performing where our gen ed students are. So those things are on our radar. But change is often slow, and bringing those students up to where we need them to be, the state's.
And I think it's important too, especially with this plan, what we're looking to do is do something that we can replicate, not just with that one subgroup, but it can be replicated with other subgroups and then additionally within the entire program. So the plan we are putting in place could be applied to any subgroup. Our focus is on that Hispanic group for right now. But it can be replicated. There. No, you're good, you're good. I have a loud voice. So it can be replicated to other subgroups, and that's why it's open to all of our students, because even though we are targeting that one group, we can replicate that between any of them to lift the entire building and their performance.
So I have a question right now. I think your program is fantastic, and we all know that it requires kids to come to school to learn. But if those students aren't prioritizing coming to school, no matter how many times you call your parents and say they're not coming to school, how are you going to get them to actually buy in? And the Learning Lab, I think, is awesome, but how are you actually going to get them to go? I mean, making sure that they have the study halls at the right times when the resources are there. I mean, you're setting them up for success, but how are you going to make sure that they actually cross the threshold and go in and get the help?
I'll start with your last question. It's actually in their schedule. It's a scheduled class. So they are expected to go there because it is in their class schedule. And that actually can change every 5 weeks for the Learning Lab. And so if that gets changed, the guidance counselor calls them down and lets them know that's their new class. So the expectation is they attend it just like they would math, science, social studies, English. For the attendance piece, you have a great point. And so I noticed when Tara and the committee really started putting a focus and built relationships with these families and really talked about knocking down barriers, we had a real increase in our students attending just when she started implementing that and really focusing on it for the second half of the year. The minute that attention was on there and she was really bridging our families in our school and really making those relationships, I think that made a huge factor. And calling students in and sitting down with families and saying, this is about you, let's talk about you. The students were starting to take some ownership. We're not going to reach every family, and we're not thinking that we're trying, but we'd like to. But there are going to be some resistance. We're not oblivious to that. But for the most part, where she was putting attention in on those relationships and the social workers making those phone calls and just saying, hey, we miss you. And having teachers saying, hey, sorry that you were out. I'm glad you're here, instead of where were you. Our teachers are doing a really great job of welcoming our students back. Even when they've had extended, they've been out for whatever reason. Hey, it's been great to see you. What's been going on? Our teachers are trying to make those relationships too, and I think that's making a difference.
Great, thank you.
I'll just add on to it. I'll try to quit adding on, because I know it extends. But that is where, that's also where the school climate survey will become critically important, and we need to set up delivery and administration of that survey so that it's well received by students and the data is well received by staff, because we know that students are not coming to school, but we don't know why. Every family has a different story, but a school climate survey asks questions about how welcome students feel in school. When they think about going to school, do they feel excited to do so? Do they feel like their teachers are happy to see them? Do they have friends at school? And looking at that data will help us hopefully pinpoint why our kiddos aren't prioritizing being here.
I kind of a question and a couple of statements. First of all, the cohort, in your explaining it, you're dealing with families. Each one is different. But how active are the kids engaged in this conversation? So we're coming from their perspective as well.
So with each of the families that our team is reaching out to, they are trying to involve the students as much as they are willing to be involved. They do communicate with families, but a lot of times we're scheduling face-to-face meetings. Please come in and talk with us. Some are more comfortable doing it over the phone, and some are doing it just on speakerphone and their children are present. We are trying to include the children as just as much as we are the parents or guardians. But we actually are asking a lot of families to come in and meet face-to-face with us.
Right. I'm just going to bring this up, that one of the schools, at one of the presentations I saw, again, this is nationwide, this problem, and it's coming out of COVID. There's a number of things that play into it. But what they had, one thing they had done was create success mentors, because the relationship is key to having that kid come in and having that someone, one individual tied, to each student to see what the problems are, see what the relationship was, how can we help you in any way forward. And it was one of the methods that they used there, and we're having some success with it. I can't remember the number, but they brought their numbers up substantially. Was it still a chronic absenteeism? Yes, but it was a lot less. It was brought, closer to achieving, getting out of that zone. So it was just something I observed, but I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is just a question. Are students, whether it be students in a subgroup or in general, ever influenced by their peers? I was just wondering, as Tom was talking, like if you had a champion, like if there were 15 kids in a subgroup and everything, and let's just say that 2 or 3 of them really started to get it and their families supported it and they were kind of, they were standing out. Could you ever ask them to help with their peers and try to say, hey, kind of break some of the resistance and walls down, because we're adults and we know that sometimes young adults don't want to listen to all that we have to say, but maybe they could be influenced by 2 or 3 that have adopted it and felt better about the program and what they're going through, and maybe have it, kind of go out that way. So I just didn't know if that is ever used.
I think that could be an opportunity. I think also within the current group that's in the senior class, we actually have a couple of them that are very, very high achieving. They're taking all college classes. Sean does a nice job of color coding, and you have your reds, your yellows, your greens, but then blues, and those are the ones that are above and beyond. They're above that mastery level. And we do have a couple of kids that are straight blue. So with that, they become examples. But it's not like we're taking all these kids and putting them in one room either. So, I think that, is there an opportunity for them to see a couple of kids being successful? I think that once we get kids to really get involved with going into the academic support and into the learning lab, like the learning lab right now, they do work hard in there. And those teachers are very focused on those students. But with the academic support that we're just starting, I think it's somewhat a student having success, and then it is that word of mouth saying, hey, it's really great. I have someone that can help me with my math homework. You should come with me. I think that word of mouth actually is going to be very big. Not only us promoting it as adults, but the kids talking about it, I think, is going to be very important. I think you have a great point there.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so based on that, we have, it seems, a 2-step process. So first we look to approve the 2 plans. So, and then we're going to have a resolution to implement the plans. So at first, I'd ask if I could get a motion for curriculum items B and C.
I'll move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Sean. Any discussion on items B and C, which are the building and the district plans that we were just presented? Okay. Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. So step B is to adopt the resolution for the school comprehensive plan and the district comprehensive plan. So if I could get a motion, please, for items D and E.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion on items D and E? Okay, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Last under curriculum is the NYSSMA All-State Ensemble Trip, which will take place in Rochester from December 5th to 8th. So if I can get a motion for item F, please.
I'll move.
Thank you. Kristen, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion? Okay, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we're up to personnel, and so I'd like to group the professional staff recommendations, please, which would be items A through E. So the professional staff recommendations, items A through E, if I can have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second? Thank you, Sean. Any discussion on items A through E? Okay, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have support staff recommendations. These would be items F through I, please. If I can have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Got Sean, thank you very much. Any discussion on items F through I? Okay, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. And then next up is going to be the rest of them. Our substitute temporary employees and extra compensatory and extracurricular recommendations. So items J through M, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion on J through M? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? All right, now we're to finance. And we have 4 items I'd like to group together as items A through D, please. If I can have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion on finance items A through D? Heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're to items from the board. Any board members have items for today?
I just, yeah, please.
Please, John.
Got something coming up Saturday. I know a lot of work goes into it, so I just want to wish them the best of luck. The Boosters have their golf tournament at the Oswego Country Club this Saturday, 1 o'clock. I understand that there's a pretty full field. I know that a ton of work goes into it, and certainly the biggest fundraiser for a lot of the extra stuff that we can do for student athletes and our whole student body and school spirit and culture. I know that was a shift a few years ago, so just, appreciate what the Boosters are doing and want to wish them good luck on Saturday. And I got a side bet with you on our foursomes.
Sounds good. Anybody else?
I'd like to just mention, with today being National IT Day, to recognize our IT staff. Most of what they do is behind the scenes with our computers, all of our controls, our safeguards and everything. We don't see them, but every time you go to turn something on, it works. So just a big thank you to all of them, and
Great, thank you, David. Anybody else?
I just wanted to mention that our girls' league and varsity volleyball teams are honoring first responders tonight at their game over at Lincoln. I encourage everyone to go over if they want to after this meeting, and I want to thank them for thanking everyone who keeps us safe in our communities. They've got representatives from fire, EMS, police. I know a bunch of our SROs are over there, and I don't know all else who they invited, but they have 30 people from our community who they're highlighting and thanking for what they do for our community.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
I want to circle around and go back to what Sean was saying before, and it's exemplified what Jen said earlier, speaking Jen Cahill, relative to stuff of us and what they do in community and community effort and what great achievements can be had. And I think Jenny Sullivan spoke to that at that presentation up at the for the playground, and all the different partners that were involved to make that lift over the 5 years from the time the other one went down, the other playground was taken down, to achieving and executing it there, and to thank everybody along the way who did that and carried it through. And I also wanted to take a special note out to commend Sean in terms of the plaque over at Wilbur Field and picking up that, to use the sports metaphor, and carrying it over the end line. Thank you very much, because I think it was a great presentation and a great evening. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we do not have need for an executive session this evening, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Sean. Is there a second? Thank you, David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Have a good evening, everybody.